Today, we dive into the most dangerous foods of the medieval world. Deadly dishes, poisonous ingredients, and meals that turn dinner into a lethal threat. These can kill you, and often did in medieval cuisine: spoiled meat. In a world without refrigeration, meat was a race against time. The moment an animal was slaughtered, the clock began ticking. In warm weather, the smell could turn sour within hours. In winter, it lasted a little longer, but the danger never truly went away. Yet medieval families didn't have the luxury of throwing food out. Every piece mattered. Food shortages were constant, winters were brutal, and hunting wasn't always an option. So people found ways to fix spoiled meat, soaking it in sour vinegar, drowning it in wine, or burying it beneath piles of overpowering spices. To them, a strong smell wasn't a warning, it was simply something to be masked. But no amount of seasoning could kill the dangerous bacteria growing deep in the flesh. Rotten pork, beef, and poultry caused fevers so intense that victims shook in their beds for days. Some drifted into delirium, muttering nonsense as infections spread through their blood. Others died quietly, their families assuming they'd simply grown weak from fatigue or cold. Nobles disguised decay with heavy sauces, believing richness meant safety. Peasants boiled meat endlessly, hoping heat alone could save them. But the truth was harsh. Every meal had the potential to turn deadly, and in many homes, it did. Ergot-infested bread, the devil's bread. Bread was the foundation of medieval life. Peasants ate it with nearly every meal, and most families depended on rye, a cheap, hardy grain that grew even in poor soil. But rye came with a hidden enemy: ergot, a black, parasitic fungus that clung to the grain like a curse. Once ergot-contaminated grain was milled into flour, the poison became invisible. Families baked bread without realizing it contained lethal alkaloids. The first symptoms were subtle: tingling fingers, cold limbs, or a feeling that insects were crawling under the skin. But soon came the screaming fits, violent convulsions, and terrifying hallucinations. Entire villages panicked when outbreaks hit. People clawed at their bodies until they bled, shouted at visions no one else could see, or danced uncontrollably in the streets until they collapsed. Their limbs sometimes blackened and rotted, leading to slow, horrifying deaths. Superstitious communities believed they were cursed or possessed by demons. Some historians even suggest that ergot outbreaks might have fueled witch hunts, as witnesses swore they'd seen townsfolk acting unnatural. One thing is certain: this devil's bread killed silently, efficiently, and often without warning. Contaminated water, the most dangerous drink in the Middle Ages. Water, the most basic necessity of life, was also one of the deadliest dangers in the medieval world. Clean rivers were rare. Most waterways were dumping grounds for animals, waste, dye pits, tannery runoff, and sometimes even the bodies of the dead. Yet people had to drink, and when thirst took over, the difference between clean and lethal became irrelevant. Typhoid, dysentery, cholera, these diseases spread like wildfire. Families often lost children within a day of symptoms. Farmers drank from streams while working in the fields. Travelers filled their flasks from ponds that looked harmless but carried invisible killers. In many villages, beer and ale weren't luxuries. They were life-saving alternatives. Monasteries brewed weak, low-alcohol drinks specifically because fermentation made them safer than water. Still, countless lives were lost every year simply because people had no better option. Even nobles weren't immune. Their wells were often tainted without them knowing, and for medieval children who had weaker immune systems, contaminated water was one of the leading causes of death. Deadly cheese and milk. Milk spoiled astonishingly fast. Without cold storage, the creamy sweetness turned sour within hours, crawling with bacteria invisible to the medieval eye. And cheese, which should have been the safer option, often became a silent trap. Cheesemaking in the Middle Ages lacked consistency. Fermentation was unpredictable, sanitation non-existent, and molds grew freely across cellars. Some molds were harmless, others triggered violent reactions: paralysis, uncontrollable vomiting, burning fevers, and sudden collapse. When entire families fell sick after sharing the same cheese, they blamed curses or evil spirits. Medieval physicians, lacking any understanding of microbes, diagnosed these cases as imbalances of the humors or punishments from the divine. Yet people kept eating cheese even when it smelled bitter or tasted metallic. Hunger didn't leave room for careful judgment. A strange flavor meant little when winter was long and food was scarce. Toxic fish. Fish was essential in medieval diets, especially during religious fasting days when eating meat was forbidden. But fish, delicate and quick to spoil, became deadly if not eaten immediately. Improper storage caused scombroid poisoning, a reaction that struck victims suddenly. Swelling lips, burning skin, racing pulse, and suffocating breaths. Some monasteries recorded terrifying incidents where entire dining halls fell sick after consuming fish that looked only slightly off. The sea was no guarantee of safety either. Certain species were toxic during specific seasons, and fishermen didn't always know which catches were dangerous. When famine hit, people ate whatever they found, even if it smelled strange or tasted too sharp. And yet, they had no choice. On holy days, meat could not be eaten. Fish became both salvation and a gamble. Many never realized that the feast intended to honor their faith was the very thing that ended their lives. Medieval medicinal herbs. In a world without modern medicine, herbs were the only treatments available. Wise women, monks, traveling healers all relied on nature to cure illness, but nature held many hidden poisons. Mandrake roots induced deep hallucinations and coma. Belladonna widened pupils, slowed the heartbeat, and caused death through respiratory failure. Hemlock shut down the nervous system, leaving victims unable to move or speak while still fully conscious. Yet all these plants were used regularly for pain, insomnia, or infections. Healers didn't intend harm. They believed in their remedies with full faith, but medieval knowledge of dosages was dangerously imprecise. A slightly larger leaf, a stronger root, or a longer infusion was enough to turn a cure into a deadly toxin. People trusted these treatments because they had nothing else, but trust didn't stop the poison from spreading quietly through their veins. Lead, pewter, and poisoned utensils. The danger didn't always come from the food. Sometimes it came from what touched it. Many medieval cups, bowls, and pots were made of pewter, an alloy containing high levels of lead. When acidic foods like vinegar or wine touched these surfaces, they absorbed deadly metal ions. At first, symptoms were subtle: headaches, trembling hands, stomach pain. But over time, lead poisoning caused memory loss, erratic behavior, and madness. Some nobles became infamous for their unpredictable tempers and strange decisions, and historians now believe their dinnerware was slowly poisoning them. Servants and cooks who handled these utensils daily suffered too, but their deaths went unnoticed, written off as fevers or weak constitutions. No one suspected the plate. Survival foods. Famine was one of the greatest terrors of the Middle Ages. When crops failed and grain prices soared, peasants ate anything that resembled food. Tree bark was ground into bitter flour. Acorns were soaked and mashed. Grass and weeds were boiled into thin, desperate soups. These survival foods offered almost no nutrition and often carried hidden dangers: toxins that damaged kidneys, fibers that tore the stomach, fungi that triggered infections. Children were especially vulnerable. Their small bodies couldn't handle these rough substitutes. In many regions, famine victims didn't die from starvation itself. They died from the desperate measures taken to avoid it. The medieval world wasn't defined only by battles, kings, or castles. It was shaped by hunger. Every meal carried a risk. Every bite was a challenge to nature. And every family, rich or poor, lived with the constant fear that something in their kitchen could destroy them. These foods didn't just kill because people were ignorant. They killed because the Middle Ages were brutally unforgiving. Science didn't exist. Medicine was guesswork. And survival depended on luck as much as knowledge. Today, we look back at these dangers with disbelief. But for medieval people, this wasn't unusual. It was daily life. So the next time you open your fridge or pour a clean glass of water, remember this: in the Middle Ages, staying alive was the hardest part of the day. Tell me, which hidden danger of medieval life should we uncover next?